So I've entitled this, I Want to Be as Smart as Barak, or We Need More Mothers in Israel. You have your program. You'll find in there that I've honored some women as well. Gwen and I have. And I did not honor simply those who were related to me or those who were good mothers in the flesh. That is, they had children, birthed them, and then raised them to adulthood. I honored, as many of you did, people who were never married. For example, you'll find in there that I honored my Sunday school teacher, Bessie Wilkes. And Bessie Wilkes never married. She was from one of those large farm families where the youngest girl got to stay home and take care of her parents until they died. And she never was married, never had children, but she had our children's Sunday school class. And she taught that for years. I've honored missionaries who never married, like Laura Hilton. She never married, and yet she had children, hundreds of children left behind in communist China that she had already led to the Lord when she was there. I honored Francis Carter, who went home to be with the Lord last year, a veteran Pentecostal Holiness missionary with thousands of children that she led to the Lord and helped raise in India. I also know that you can honor those who are married but childless. One of the women that I want to honor is Lucille Rogers, who had no children, but she taught children's church for years, and she taught me, and who gathered up her neighbors' children who did not go to church and brought them to church and led them to the Lord. I also could honor women who were single until they were past childbearing years, like June Carter, Conovasio, a missionary who then married a widower with grown children and became his wife. She too is a mother in Israel. And I wanted you to see that you don't have to have babies and raise them to be a mother in Israel. These were all mothers in Israel to many, and I'm sure you have honored many in the same categories, whether they're married or not, whether they give physical birth to children or not. So the message here today concerns all women. And based on my title, you might assume that there is something of significance I want to say to the men present here as well. Let me just take a few minutes to give you the heart of this message, and then I'll close it. Deborah was the wife of a man. We don't know whether he was rich or powerful or poor or inconsequential. Whether she had children or not, we have no record. But at some point in her life, she could have been in her 20s, she could have been in her 50s, she could have been in her 80s. She found a palm tree, and she got under it. And she talked to the Lord about the fact that they had been in captivity for 20 years, that the economy was ruined, people didn't have jobs, people weren't free. They had given up hopes of being God's covenanted people and bringing a light, a Messiah into the world. And she poured her heart out to God in that secret place, and the Lord began to speak to her. And it wasn't long until the Lord began to speak through her. And she would go to family members or people in the community and give them the word of the Lord. And before you knew it, people were coming and lining up and waiting for Deborah to get under her palm tree and said, "Deborah, I need help. Pray for me. What is the Lord going to do? I need direction." And before long, the Lord began to give her words for leadership, and she would call them to her palm tree. And I believe she called Barak to that palm tree before, because she said to him when he got there, she said, "Didn't the Lord tell you to get 10,000 men and go up on Mount Tabor and let me bring Sisera and his massive army that no one could imagine defeating with 900 iron chariots, and let the Lord bring them into the valley below?" and let me use you to defeat them and drive them out and free my people. Now, that valley along the Kishon River is known as Esdraelon in the Old Testament. You know what it's called in the New Testament? It's called Armageddon. The plains of Armageddon. It reminds me of where I grew up in Roanoke, Virginia, which is a bowl-shaped valley with mountains around it and a river running through it. And you could go up on Mill Mountain and be about 1,200 feet above the downtown area. Mount Tabor was 1,200 feet above the valley along the river. Now, it was drier there and a little bit flatter, but it was a massive plain, a massive valley, 20 miles across from corner to corner and 14 miles across the other direction. And it was a place where armies were thought to have no opportunity to be defeated. You couldn't sneak up on them. And the Lord said, take 10,000 men, get up on that mountain and taunt Sisera until I bring him down below. And there's no way in the world, in the flesh, you can defeat them. And I guess Barak just thought, I don't think I'll do that. Or maybe he said, like many of us, let me pray about it. She called him back in and she said, didn't the Lord tell you? And what did he say to her? I tell you what, you go with me. I have confidence in you. You've heard from the Lord. Yes, I'm a fighter. Right? He must have been an impressive fellow. His name meant lightning flash. Barak means lightning flash. Deborah's name meant honeybee. She could be sweet like a woman of God, but she had some sting to her if the devil got in her way. Honeybee. So honeybee said to lightning flash, God said go up. Lightning flash said to honeybee, you go with me. And she said, all right, I'll go. But just remember, they're going to make fun of you and said he couldn't do it without a woman. And he said, I don't care. I don't care. So what did they do? They went up there, got up on top, 10,000 men. Massive army came out below. And all of a sudden, in a dry season, when the river was virtually disappeared, and it never rained, suddenly there was a massive storm and the river swept through and the army got confused and started to drown and they ran in every direction and the 10,000 troops, she said, get up and go. And they got up and went and they ran out there and slaughtered every single one of them except Sisera in his chariot of iron. And he couldn't move his chariot of iron because he's surrounded with water and mud. Right? So what does he do? It said he alighted off his chariot. I love that language. That means he hopped off that chariot and hoofed it as fast as he could go in another direction. We need women, not just men, who get in the secret place and hear from God. And then allow the Lord to use them in a position of influence to speak the words of God and give direction and give leadership. And some of you go, oh no, I can't do that. That's for men to do. Then why is this in the Bible? And why is Barak listed as one of the members of the great Hall of Fame, the Faith Hall of Fame in Hebrews 11? He's listed with David and Gideon and Samuel and all the rest of them. And he hid behind a woman's skirt. He was one of those mama's boys. He couldn't do it without a woman. That didn't bother him at all. Are we going to have women here who are going to get in that secret place and hear from God and not be afraid to be used in a position of influence?